Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. So today is the first Saturday in Pansa, in our Wasa, the rains retreat. So here in Canada, a couple days ago was the Asalaha Puja, and yesterday was the first day of uh, the rains retreat. It was the entering of the rains retreat, or in Thai we'd call like one cow pansa. And so the rains retreat is underway, but just from chatting with people over the past maybe 6 months, 7 months, people coming to me and talking about things. One of the interesting things, or one of the themes which keeps coming up, is about difficulties in life and how many difficulties in life, a lot of people are facing, and that it seems to all hit at once. It seems that, something, big, something major, something, really, really can be devastating or difficult to deal with happens. And then before they've even had time to recover from that, something else happens. And then something else happens. And then something else happens. And, it feels like it always seems to happen that way, that, in life, like everything bad always happens at once. The old expression, like when it rains, it pours. And just hearing from so many people who will have, a death in the family, and then, maybe lose their job, and then their dog dies on top of that, and then, they're in the hospital with health problems. And it just seems, everything all at once. And, when this happens, because we've all experienced this before in life. Well, mostly, hopefully there are some who haven't, but but for a lot of us, this is just something we've all gone through in life. And, and it can feel so like overwhelming, almost feel like you're just drowning in all these problems and all these, sometimes all these sorrows and all this stress, and you just don't even know where to start. You don't even know how to get out of it. Ajahn Brahm, he had a really good simile or little story about this. Actually one of his first books was named after it. It was this Who Ordered This Truckload of Dung? So he said it's like sometimes it feels like, someone has driven up with a big dump truck full of manure and just dumped it all over your front doorstep. And you walk outside and there's just manure and excrement everywhere. And again, at first it just, this huge pile just seems overwhelming. But he says what you do is, you just bit by bit, you start slowly clearing it away. And, you can start working into the soil, working into your gardens. And so all that manure, it's going to end up working as fertilizer. And then that fertilizer, will give birth to and help, the flowers grow and become beautiful. And, and it's a really, really great teaching. It's a really great simile, but sometimes when you're in that situation, and you've got all these things going on, you're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to find the wheelbarrow to move the stuff. I think it's under the excrement, and so it's important to be able to start and be able to find skillful methods to do that. Because again, with so many things in these teachings, it's easier to say than to do. It's like when people are like, okay, just let go. Don't worry about that, just let go. Or, you're thinking about something, it's really bothering you, and you're told, just let it go, just cut it out. And you're just thinking, you're like, well, I would if I could, I'd love to be able to do that, but it doesn't seem to be working. So, so again, it's important for us to find skillful means to approach this problem and almost like kind of skills to approach some of these problems in life. So I think one of the first ones at least, and most important to start off with is um, to not take this personally and just remind yourself that this isn't personal. Because a lot of times, we feel like it's personal. It's like, oh man, the world is just out to get me. Like everyone's out to get me. And just to remind ourselves, this isn't personal. This isn't just anyone going after me. This is an experience everyone can go through. Um, Lumpur Sumedho has this great teaching of when people come to him and are like, I've got this friend, and they're such a good person. They do so much good stuff, and they're just such a nice person, so kind and helpful. But everything bad seems to happen to them. They've got all this bad stuff happening to them. Like, why is that? What did they do for this to happen? And again, uh, you know, a lot of these people they're expecting some kind of answer about, oh well, in their past life they did this and this, and so this is the karma of this, and they want to find like a reason for it. And Lumpur Sumedho just says, it's because they were born. And so, and I think that's a really, really great teaching. Of course, he's taking the real wisdom approach, but I think also when we take that reflection on being like, yeah, this is life. Like this is part of the human experience, when we're living in samsara, when we're living in, the world, that stuff just does happen. So, no matter, how hard people work to make their situation in the world as good and as comfy and, as ideal as possible, things happen. And so we can't control that. So it's good, um, yeah, to think of that way. And it's also, if we do start thinking, oh, I wonder what karma I did. I wonder if I'd done something really bad in the past um, to cause this, or it must be my fault that bad things are happening. I must have done bad things. We have to be really careful around those reflections of karma. If we're reflecting on karma as in, okay, maybe this was the result of my bad karma, so I'm going to strive to really do good things, to really try to improve this, or to really work on my practice, and really maybe try to become enlightened this lifetime, or at least, try to get as close as I can, or, practice hard to get rid of this suffering. But sometimes we can pick it up the wrong way. It's with some of these teachings, there's the Buddha said it's like picking up a knife. If you pick it up by the handle, it's a very useful tool and it's very helpful. But if you pick it up by the blade, you're just going to cut yourself and you can just end up harming yourself. So it is with something like this, if we start thinking, oh, picking this teaching up in the wrong way and start thinking, oh, well, you know, um, if all these bad things are happening, it must be, my karma. So I'm just, I'm a bad person. I must have been really bad in my past, and I deserve this. I mean, that's not going to help you through this situation. It's just when you start thinking like that, you start getting hard on yourself. You're just making the situation worse. You're just getting more negativity and more difficulties for yourself. And it's also important to remember that, also uh, that we have to be kind to ourselves when in these situations. So sometimes, we do feel like, oh, well, I've been practicing, meditation for so long. I've been a Buddhist for so long, or even for monks, like, oh, I've been a monk for so long, I shouldn't be bothered by this. I should just be able to, practice through it and cut it out. And, you can get really, really hard on yourself and, really beat yourself up, which again is just going to make the situation worse. You just have to realize, okay, this is what happened. This is how it is right now. Um, and work on, developing, being able to get out of this. So, ideally the way, to do it would be through our practice, would be through, our meditation, would be through our wise reflection and through all these different skills, that we've developed throughout our practice. But sometimes, again, sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes if it's just too much for us, and we can't handle that, we can find other skillful means. So, I had this friend very good monk, and we ordained at different monasteries. And he was living with this, very well-known teacher. And this monk was going through a difficult time. He was really stressed. There was a lot going on for him in life, and he was just stressed and having real difficulties. And he went to his teacher and was talking about it. And he was you know, um, just talking about everything which was going on and these doubts he was having. So his teacher had a layperson take him into town. And his teacher is, reputed to be enlightened, his very good reputation as a teacher. Had a layperson take this monk into town and get him some ice cream. And then and then he took him for a bit of a drive, a bit of sightseeing and stuff. And the monk was saying afterwards, he's like, it worked. He was like, I was able to just, calm down, and this actually worked. And so or I know another monk who was also a disciple of the same teacher, and he was, having a real tough time, and he was thinking about disrobing. So this teacher took him on a trip to Sri Lanka. Monk had a great time. He came back. He was really inspired again. So, and he's still a monk to this day, and that must have been 15 years ago. So it's one of these things. Sometimes you do have to develop a certain like skillful means to deal with this. So, ideally it's like, yeah, we can deal with it directly with our practice. But sometimes, if it's too much and then there's too much going on, sometimes it is we do have to find some kind of other skillful means, some kind of other way to deal with it. And and we also remind ourselves, it's one thing, I always find really, important and helpful in practice is just that reflecting on, impermanence. So sometimes, when everything's coming in on us, we get like on that felt level, that, oh, it's always going to be like this, or it's just going to get worse. What's next, but just remind ourselves, this is impermanent, it's going to change. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get over it. And so again, just to keep bringing up these reflections and keep coming back to our practice. And so again, like sometimes, we do have that feeling I should just go straight at it and, just deal with this problem straight on, like a boxer, just, punch, 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 go straight through. And Ajahn Nando was once, giving this really beautiful teaching, and he was, comparing and using the simile of a boxer for dealing with kilesas, but you can do it here with all kinds of problems. And he was saying, yeah, you just have to keep fighting just like a boxer and going on and on. So this one layman was asking him, was like, okay, so if we're supposed to do it like that, does that mean, if we're having difficulties or something like that, we shouldn't go somewhere else, we shouldn't change, we should just stay and just go, go, go. And Ajahn Nand said, no, that's not the way to do it. He said, and he brought it back to the simile of the boxer. He's like, sometimes as a boxer, you've got to duck, you've got to weave, you've got to play the ropes a bit, and you've got to do these other things. So it's not always just go straight on. So it's the same for us with our practice. We have to do this to try to overcome some of these difficulties in life. So I'd like to offer that as a bit of a short reflection for this evening.